Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Apologies for that. Our GenComm animation abruptly ended about 5 seconds before the end. We use that as our introduction to allow everybody to get online and get settled in. Today's seminar, Green Hydrogen Supply, is the second in our Spring 21 series, Smart Hydrogen. How we use green hydrogen to decarbonise our energy networks, but use it in a smarter way in production, development, delivery, and utilisation, and how we now use these webinars to inform others and also to be informed. The webinar is a two-way street for us all. We're putting information out there and we welcome your feedback. You'll see the chat function down the right-hand side there of your screen. Please use that to raise questions, raise issues during the whole of the morning, during the seminars and during the presentations from the different speakers. We will have a short Q&A after each speaker and then the main Q&A at the end. And the reason for that, folks, is to make sure we engage with you, the audience. We've all been on different webinars or different Zoom calls where it can be predictable and boring and you become disengaged. The speaking sessions are no longer than 15 minutes each. That keeps them short, it keeps them functional and keeps them quite linked into what you need to see. Please direct them with your chat and ask any questions you have. We'll ask those after each session and after at the end. All of today's presentations will be available on the GenComm website and the Community Hydrogen Forum site after the event. And there will be a recording of the session after the event will be released next week for those of you who want to use it as a digital format. So our webinar is truly interactive. We want to hear from you, we want to inform you, but we want your feedback. You will have the digital format then of the recording next week and also all of the slides and the presentations. As I said, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. We'll be starting off our session with a poll which gets the audience on their feet. And it's to make sure that we are as informed as we inform. As we move forward to achieving the net zero by 2050, there are a lot of energy stages and energy steps as we go forward. Those energy stages and energy steps are people powered. We have to make sure that we have a just transition as we move forward and that we leave no stranded assets. And that's importantly, people assets, that everybody enjoys the benefits of decarbonisation and green hydrogen and enjoys the commercial, social and environmental benefits coming out the back end. So we want to make sure that we work with that, and thank you all for joining us this morning. I'm Paul McCormack. I am the GenComm coordinator based in Belfast, Met, and we work with the GenComm team across Europe, generating energy secure communities and making sure, as we said, that just transition occurs and everybody benefits from. Our GenComm Spring 21 series is to create webinar content that inspires, educates, and acquires you, our audience. That content is free for you to use, to cite, to develop, and to include in your own work. It's working with us in cohesion and partnership. We want to build a content intelligence within green hydrogen and in the zero carbon transition journey. We want to provide an information portal that is two-way. We've talked about this being a communication two-way street. Use that chat function, use the emails and that after if you have any questions, or come on to the GenComm site, the Community Hydrogen Forum site, and come back with us. We have to there to inform, educate, and inspire. As we've said earlier, to make sure the primary goals of GenComm is generating energy secure communities. How we reverse the energy spectrum from the communities being at the end to put them at the start and put them in charge. And we want to put you at the heart of that energy transition to achieve that. A quote there at the end of that, Dan Jorgensen, Denmark's Minister of Climate, Education, Energy and Utilities last week. It is essential that people affected by the transition are given a voice and are included in the dialogue. Transitions are affecting the livelihoods of workers and their families. They all have concerns and maybe fears, which should be addressed in open dialogue. That's the European mandate in the hydrogen highway and in the new hydrogen map, how we make sure everybody's involved and included. In the IEA conference last week, John Kerry, US Presidential Special Envoy for Climate, stated, "This is the greatest economic opportunity we've ever had. We are looking at the biggest job market ever known. Every task we have, building out the grid, solar power, wind power, and building out hydrogen, batteries, and switching to electric vehicles will all create jobs." And the opportunity for us engaging is to make sure that we have a part in that to play. That we make sure whatever country we're in, be it Northern Ireland, Britain, Germany, France, Holland, whatever, that those economic opportunities are secured for that region, for those communities, and they enjoy all of the 360-degree benefits. that we make sure as we move that forward. We keep going on with green hydrogen. It is recognised globally as a key element in global decarbonisation, producing hydrogen from renewables with a zero carbon footprint. We are promoting it, as with others, as the catalyst to accelerate that energy transition. And importantly, as we move forward with our GenComm project into GenComm 2 and looking at Hydrogen Europe, we see it as the gatekeeper which will open up the full potential for offshore renewables. There's no need for a grid connection, which is the limiting factor. We can produce hydrogen from offshore and transport and use that. But we see that as that gatekeeper, which is opening the opportunities and making sure we can get forward. It is the catalyst for driving Europe's energy transition, optimizing the journey, delivering smart hydrogen through valorization of the hydrogen supply chain, looking beyond just the low-hanging fruit where we can use hydrogen for powering buses, powering transport, just mobility. We want to look at production, storage, and other uses in production and in use to optimize and valorize that through smart hydrogen to create a successful Hydrogen Europe. Our webinar 2 today covers this innovation pathway of the production and use of zero carbon fuel. At the start, we'll hear from Mark Welch in Energia, how they're looking from their wind farm to create green hydrogen. Then we'll hear from Robert Best and Lightbus, how they're using that hydrogen to power mobility. So that's the present, the current, and then we'll hear from Simon and Echelon Data Centres to the future, how they see hydrogen as playing a key energy cog in their wheel to make sure they have that energy security to decentralize their data centres, move the data centres away from large areas of population to areas where there are renewable opportunities and use hydrogen as that link. True energy innovation is about developing and delivering sustainable solutions that meet community and environmental need. Our work in GenComm in generating energy secure communities, we want to optimize smart H2 to meet the twin goals of energy security and sustainability, making sure that we're able to use smart H2 to scale up green hydrogen. As we look across the whole of the supply chain from production, conversion, transmission, distribution and use, we want to use it in a smarter way, a more commercial way, and a more technically environmental and safer way, where we can really get the full benefits just beyond the commercial end, where we get the full spectrum of benefits for smart hydrogen. Today's agenda is an introduction from myself. We have Mark Weston from Energia and GenComm, the leaders of our work package Investment 3, looking at wind to hydrogen. Investment 2 is led by ETSIS in Germany from solar to hydrogen, and Investment Package 1 is Pure Energy Centre in Stornoway, looking at bio to hydrogen. 3 different hydrogen pilots from 3 different renewable opportunities, a hybrid project mix of opportunity and use, all gathered then within the decision support tool led by Dr. Rory Monaghan at the University in Galway, how to inform and utilise that hydrogen in a smarter way and allow people to make informed choices. Our second speaker is Dr. Robert Best from Lightbus, who will talk about hydrogen mobility and how that is opening a whole new market for them in their work that they're doing. Then we'll have Simon McCormack from Echelon Data Centres, who look at how they're going to use hydrogen in a newer way, in a more novel way, to keep their security and their data moving forward. And at the end, as we said, a question and answer session, finishing off hopefully in around 11:30. It might run over a bit as some things do, but to allow you that time to further engage and to question our team. Quote from Frans Timmermans, the EU Minister, on Thursday, 25th of March. It says, Europe has set a clear goal for full decarbonisation by 2050. Renewables-based electricity is set to become the dominant energy carrier, and that means fossil gas will only have a marginal role. As we talk about this transition and moving forward, the end goal, yes, is green hydrogen, a zero-carbon economy. But there are those energy stages along the route, and that would include using a lot of lower carbon energy opportunities such as methane and biomethane in our energy mix, and looking at that hybrid mix as we move forward. Mark Welch, one of our speakers this morning, talks about hydrogen being silver buckshot. It's different opportunities for different sectors. It is not a silver bullet. It's not a one size fits all. So in that hybrid mix, in that matrix of energy use, we look in different ways how hydrogen will play its role, and we'll examine those this morning in the generation use and the future use of that hydrogen. Our European Hydrogen Highway is one of the other things we've used in GenComm in our previous webinar series and in this one. We're looking to see at how we link through all the different energy projects across Europe linking people, linking projects, and linking opportunity to create that stable opportunity that the governments then come in behind and create a regulatory framework for hydrogen across the European Union, capable of attracting private investors into what they will be developed as a competitive, predictable market. We're at the very early stages. Investors are looking at the opportunity, but they need that predictability in order to make the greater investments. Our spring series, this is the second one, as I said. Our first one was hydrogen optimization, the 10th of March. Our next one on the 29th of April, we'll look at infrastructure and storage, specifically the hydrogen opportunities in the Northern Ireland energy transition. On the 18th of May, we'll look at hydrogen demand and use, and then the 27th of May is hydrogen stakeholder engagement. These are all part of a planned series, as I said, to inform, to educate, to enable ourselves and the audience. As we look forward, we're looking at more opportunities, we're looking at more places, and we're looking at more partners, how we engage and build beyond that, from the bottom up, from the skills need right through to the opportunity and the demand. As I said at the start, we have a poll, and that gets you, the audience, in your feet. We have over 180 people registered this morning. I see 100 on so far. People come and go during webinars. That's the new digital first format. It allows people to come in and out of the room without making any noise. You have no swinging doors. You don't hear any mobile phones ringing, so there are no distractions for the speakers. But at the same time, the speakers cannot see the audience, so it's quite an awkward way of addressing that group. So one of the first things we do is we have an audience poll, and that gets you, the audience, in your feet. It gets you engaged. The question we have is, where do you think green hydrogen will have the greatest impact as a source of energy? Is it in helping decarbonise our energy system? Is it in helping balance the grid when introducing more renewable options? Is it in achieving sector coupling opportunities? Number 4, helping industry to reduce carbon emissions. And number 5, providing energy security for communities or other. And please suggest that in the chat function. One slight drawback, we have a webinar jam. The webinar, the audience polls only allow you to select one option. We wanted to go with more than one option here with people, but the format of the webinar wouldn't allow that. But what this does, it allows us, the speakers, to look at what you think and where you're sitting at when in your hydrogen space, where you think green hydrogen is going to have the greatest impact. And then as Mark, Simon and Robert address you in their sessions, they will come back to this. It helps them shape their presentation. In a live audience, you can look down into the room and see are people sleeping or awake, are they engaged or not, and you can change the slant of your presentation. In a webinar poll just as this, we don't have that luxury. So we use the polls, we use the questions and answers to make sure we stay on track, to make sure we are using your time the next hour and a half, that we use it wisely, that you leave with at least 3 or 4 nuggets of information that you can use in your work moving forward. And we can only do that by being directed by yourselves through the polls and by the chat. So if we look at where the biggest opportunity is helping industry reduce carbon emissions at 27%. And so I didn't see the top, and having 6, it goes off screen on me on the side. So helping decarbonise our energy system at 46%. Almost 50% of the audience, 101 that are registered at the minute, or online at the minute, think that carbon can help decarbonise your energy system, and that's the most important impact it's going to have. So if Robert and Simon and Mark think about that and use that, but also at the same time address where other sector coupling opportunities may be, especially in mobility, especially in the data centres, providing energy security for communities, how they provide that link, and at 15% help balance the grid. As we look at more and more renewables coming online, it creates more and more problems for the grid operator to help balance the grid, and we're going to see curtailment rise. So how do we address that? So folks, thanks for your impact. That gives the speakers now a direction. It gives them a focus they can use within their presentations. Thank you very much for that.